The morning sun hadn't even cleared the horizon when I heard the trucks rumbling up my driveway. I stood at my kitchen window, coffee cup frozen halfway to my lips, watching three white vans marked Premier Event Design pull onto my property. My property. The land I'd worked for 40 years. Every fence post driven by these hands, every field cleared with my own sweat. I'm Margaret Thornton, 72 years old, and I've never been the type to sit quietly when something doesn't feel right. This farm, 300 acres of rolling pasture in western Montana, represents every sacrifice I ever made. My late husband Robert and I bought this place when we were barely 30, taking on debt that terrified us both. We worked sunrise to sunset, building it into something real, something worth passing down. If you're already feeling the tension in the story, help this channel grow by clicking that subscribe button. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. Asterisk, asterisk. The truck stopped near my largest barn, the one Robert and I renovated 15 years ago. I watched workers emerge, carrying boxes of decorations, rolls of white fabric, and what looked like hundreds of folding chairs. My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what this was, even though nobody had said a word to me about it. My son Nathan. It had to be. I set down my coffee and walked outside, my boots crunching on the gravel driveway. The October air in Montana carries a particular bite in the morning, sharp and clean, smelling of pine and earth. I'd always loved this time of year, when the work of summer fades and you can finally catch your breath. But today, that crisp air felt heavy with something darker. "Excuse me," I called to the nearest worker, a young woman with a clipboard. "What's happening here?" She looked up, startled, then smiled professionally. "We're setting up for the Morrison wedding." "Are you with the venue management?" "I am the venue management," I said slowly. "This is my property." Her smile faltered.
"Oh,
"Mrs. Thornton, your son Nathan arranged everything with our company. We have a contract for this Saturday." This Saturday. 3 days away. My hands clenched at my sides. Nathan had done it. He'd actually done it, planned an entire wedding on my land without asking me, without even telling me. Your subscription helps us reach more people with stories like this. Click subscribe now. It's free and takes just a second. Asterisk, asterisk. "There must be some mistake," I said, forcing my voice to stay level. "I never agreed to host a wedding here." The young woman's face went pale. She fumbled with her clipboard. "But we have a signed contract. Mr. Morrison said his mother owned the property and had given full permission. We've already invested thousands in planning." "Give me a moment," I interrupted. I pulled out my phone and called Nathan. He answered on the third ring, his voice cheerful and completely unsuspecting. "Hey, Mom. What's up?" "What's up?" I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. "Nathan, there are event planners in my barn right now. They say you've arranged a wedding here this Saturday." A pause. Then, "Oh, yeah.
I meant to tell you about that."
It's Brittany's cousin Madison, you remember her? She needed a venue on short notice, and I figured why not use the property? The barn's just sitting there anyway."
"Just sitting there."
40 years of work, and my son thought my barn was just sitting there. "You figured wrong," I said. "You don't get to make decisions about my property, Nathan. This is my land." "Come on, Mom." His tone shifted, taking on that edge of impatience I'd heard more and more over the past 5 years, since he married Brittany. "It's not like you're using it for anything. And it's family helping family. Madison's willing to pay you if that's what you're worried about." "If that's what I'm worried about." I closed my eyes, trying to contain the fury building in my chest. "Nathan, you and Brittany have been treating this place like it's already yours. Calling it our property when you visit, making plans without consulting me. But I'm not dead yet, and this farm is mine. You're being dramatic. It's just one weekend." I hung up. The event coordinator was watching me nervously. Around us, her crew had started unloading more supplies, clearly unsure whether to continue. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to subscribe. We're so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you matters. Asterisk, asterisk. "Ma'am," the coordinator said gently. Should we stop? I looked at her. She was young, maybe 30, just trying to do her job. This wasn't her fault. But I'd be damned if I let Nathan steamroll over me on my own land.
Keep unloading, I said.
But don't set anything up yet. I need to make a phone call. I walked back to my house, my mind racing. Nathan's words echoed in my head. Not like you're using it for anything. As if 50 years of my life meant nothing. As if the farm was already his to control. Inside, I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Robert and I had made every major decision about this place, and I did something that surprised even me. I called Premier Event Design's main office and asked to speak with their booking manager. I'd like to rent out my property for this Saturday, I said when they connected me. The barn and surrounding grounds. I understand you already have crews headed there for a different event, but that booking wasn't authorized. I'm the actual property owner, and I'm making an official reservation right now. The manager sounded confused but professional. Mrs. Thornton, we do have the Morrison wedding scheduled. With my son's authorization, not mine. He doesn't own this property. I do. And I'm telling you right now, I'm renting the space to someone else. Do you want the business or not? There was a long pause. I could hear papers rustling. If you're the legal owner, she said carefully, then you do have the right to control bookings. But Mrs. Thornton, this puts us in a very difficult position. I'll pay whatever cancellation fees the Morrisons would owe you, I said. And I'll pay premium rates for the new event. Consider it an emergency booking. What kind of event? I thought fast. A corporate retreat. Team building activities, that sort of thing. I have a company interested. I was making this up as I went, but my mind was sharp. They'll need the barn, the grounds, everything. All day Saturday, and possibly into Sunday. It was a risk. A huge one. But something in me had snapped when Nathan said my barn was just sitting there. Your subscription means we can keep bringing you powerful stories like this. Press that red subscribe button and help us reach our goal. ***. The booking manager was quiet for a long moment. Then, Mrs. Thornton, I need to verify ownership and make some calls. Can you send documentation? I'll email you the property deed within the hour, I said, along with my driver's license. And I'll transfer a deposit immediately. This is highly irregular. So is my son booking my property without my permission. After I hung up, I sat in the silence of my kitchen. What had I just done? I'd basically declared war on my own son. But the alternative, letting him walk all over me, treating my life's work like his personal playground, that was impossible to swallow. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Mom, don't be unreasonable about this. Madison already sent out invitations. I stared at the message. Not an apology. Not even acknowledgement that he'd overstepped. Just an accusation that I was being unreasonable. I typed back. Then Madison is going to be very disappointed on Saturday. Outside my window, the event workers were still milling around, uncertain. The morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the fields I'd tended for 4 decades. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the low of cattle, the small herd I still kept, more out of habit than necessity now. Robert would have been furious at Nathan. He'd always worried that our son didn't understand the value of the land, didn't appreciate the sacrifices we'd made. He thinks everything just comes easy, Robert had said once toward the end. He doesn't know what it costs to build something real. My husband had been right. I picked up my phone again and called my lawyer, Tom Henderson. We'd known each other for 30 years. He'd handled the farm's business since his own father retired. Tom, I need your help with something, I said when he answered. And it needs to happen fast. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to this channel now. We're building a community, and we want you to be part of it. ***. Tom Henderson arrived at my farm an hour later, his silver pickup truck pulling up to my house just as the event coordinators were taking a lunch break. He was a tall man, 70 years old, with the kind of weathered face that comes from living your entire life in Montana. We'd been through everything together. Robert's death, estate planning, boundary disputes with neighbors. He knew this land almost as well as I did. Margaret, he said as he climbed out of his truck, carrying his leather briefcase. I got here as fast as I could. On the phone, you said something about Nathan? Come inside, I said. This is complicated. We sat at my kitchen table, and I laid out the whole situation. The unauthorized wedding booking. Nathan's dismissive attitude. My decision to book the venue myself for the same day. Tom listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each detail. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. Margaret, I understand why you're angry. Nathan was completely out of line. But what you're planning, it's going to create a family crisis like nothing you've seen before. There's already a crisis, I said quietly. Tom, you should hear how Nathan and Brittany talk about this place. Our property. They say it right in front of me, like I'm already gone. Tom pulled out a legal pad and started writing.
All right.
Let's make sure we do this correctly then. First question, have you actually found another client to rent the space Saturday, or were you bluffing to Premier Event Design? I hesitated. Bluffing. But I'll find someone. That's what I figured. He tapped his pen on the pad. Here's what we need to do. First, I'll draft a letter to Premier Event Design confirming that you are the sole owner of this property and that any bookings require your written authorization. That protects you legally. And the wedding? Nathan's contract with them isn't valid without your consent. They'll have to cancel. But Margaret, he looked at me seriously, you need to think about what comes next. Nathan is going to be furious. Brittany will be furious. This cousin Madison and her fiancé will be furious. You're going to have a lot of angry people on your doorstep. If you're invested in seeing how this unfolds, click subscribe. Every subscription brings us closer to 1,000, and we can't do it without you. Asterisk, asterisk. I know, I said. But Tom, if I back down now, it'll never stop. They'll keep treating this place like it's already theirs. Next it'll be hosting Brittany's book club here, or Nathan deciding to lease out the south pasture, without asking. Where does it end? Tom nodded slowly. You're right about that. Once you let someone cross a boundary, they'll keep crossing it. He started writing again. Okay, I'll make this ironclad. But you still need an actual event for Saturday, or you're just burning bridges for no reason. I stood up and walked to my window. Outside, the event workers were sitting on the tailgates of their trucks, eating sandwiches and checking their phones. They had no idea they were in the middle of a family war. What if I made it a community event? I said suddenly, turning back to Tom. Something for the town? Tom raised an eyebrow. What kind of community event? I don't know yet. But Thompson Falls has always supported me. When Robert died, this town rallied around me. Maybe it's time I gave something back. Tom considered this. That could work. Though you'd need to organize it pretty fast. We're talking 3 days. My mind was already racing. The Harvest Festival isn't until next month, right? What if I did an early celebration? Free food, music, activities for kids. I could call it, I don't know, a Harvest Thank You Day or something. That's ambitious. I can pull it off, I said. I've organized plenty of events for this farm over the years. Robert and I used to host the County Cattle Show here every summer. I know how to manage this. Tom wrote something on his pad, then looked up at me with something like admiration. You know what, Margaret? This might actually be brilliant. If you frame it as giving back to the community, you look generous instead of vengeful. And Nathan looks like the one who assumed he could control your property. That's exactly what happened, I pointed out.
True.
All right, I'm in. Let's do this right. He started making a list. You'll need permits for a public gathering, liability insurance, food vendors or catering, entertainment, probably portable toilets. Tom, I interrupted. I've been running this farm for 40 years. I know how to host an event. He smiled. Fair enough. I'll handle the legal paperwork and confirm everything with Premier Event Design. You handle the actual event planning. But Margaret, I need to ask, have you thought about what you're going to say to Nathan? I had. I'd been thinking about little else. I'll tell him the truth, I said. That he overstepped and there are consequences. He's a grown man. It's time he learned that his actions matter. Your support keeps this channel growing. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Help us hit 1,000 subscribers. ***. Tom left an hour later with a stack of documents for me to sign. The moment his truck disappeared down my driveway, my phone rang. Nathan again. I answered. Hello. Mom. What the hell is going on? His voice was tight with anger. I just got a call from Premier Event Design saying there's a problem with the venue. They said you're claiming the booking wasn't authorized. That's correct. It wasn't. This is ridiculous. Madison has already. Madison, I interrupted, has my sympathy. But Nathan, you booked my property without my permission. You don't get to do that. You're doing this to punish me, to prove some kind of point. I took a deep breath. I'm doing this because you've forgotten whose land this is. You and Brittany have been acting like this farm is already yours, making decisions without consulting me, calling it our property like I'm not even here anymore. Well, I am here. And this is still my farm.
Jesus, Mom.
It was one wedding, one weekend. Why are you being so selfish? Selfish.
The word hit me like a slap.
I worked this land for 40 years, I said, my voice shaking now. Your father and I built everything here from nothing. We went into debt up to our necks. We worked 17-hour days. We sacrificed vacations, new cars, everything, to make this farm successful. And you think I'm selfish because I won't let you give it away to your wife's cousin for a weekend? It's not giving it away. Madison is going to pay you. That's not the point, Nathan.
The point is you didn't ask.
You assumed. You assumed this land is yours to control, even though I'm still alive and still the legal owner. Silence on the other end. Then, fine. You want to play it this way? Don't expect Brittany and me to come around anymore. Don't expect to see your grandkids. The threat landed exactly as he intended. I had 2 grandchildren, Nathan's daughters, Emma and Sophie, ages 6 and 9. I loved them desperately. If you want to weaponize your children against me, I said softly, that tells me everything I need to know about who you've become. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking. I set the phone down on the kitchen table and stared at it, half expecting him to call back immediately. He didn't. Outside, the event coordinators were packing up their lunch and returning to work. I watched them through the window, these strangers on my land, and felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. If this story is resonating with you, please consider subscribing. We're growing this channel together, one viewer at a time. ***. What had I started? This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was about decades of tension, years of watching Nathan slowly distance himself from the values Robert and I had tried to instill.
It was about respect.
About boundaries. About refusing to be erased from my own life story. I thought about Emma and Sophie. The last time they'd visited, 3 weeks ago, Sophie had helped me collect eggs from the henhouse while Emma practiced her reading to the barn cats. They loved this place. Would Nathan really keep them away? My phone buzzed with a text. This time from Brittany. You're making a huge mistake.
This isn't about you.
I read the message 3 times. Wasn't about me? This was my land. My life's work.
How is it not about me?
I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and started making calls. If I was going to host a community event in 3 days, I needed to move fast. First call, the Thompson Falls Community Center, to see if they had any vendors or entertainers available on short notice. Second call, my neighbor Jerry Wilkins, who ran a barbecue catering business. Third call, the local high school band director, to see if students might want to perform. One by one, people said yes. Because this was Montana, and this was how small towns worked. When someone needed help, you showed up. By evening, I had the skeleton of an event. Jerry's barbecue, the high school jazz band, a local folk singer named Rita, whom I'd known for 20 years, and a promise from the community center to help spread the word. It wasn't fancy, but it was real. I stood on my porch as the sun set, painting the mountains gold and purple. This land, my land, stretched out before me, familiar as my own heartbeat. Every fence, every tree, every building held a memory. Robert proposing to me by the creek. Nathan learning to ride his first horse in the South pasture. The year we finally paid off the mortgage and celebrated with champagne on this very porch. I wasn't ready to let it go. Not yet. And definitely not to someone who couldn't even respect me enough to ask permission. My phone rang one more time. This time, it was an unknown number. Mrs. Thornton? A woman's voice, nervous and upset. This is Madison Morrison. I need to talk to you about Saturday. I closed my eyes. Here we go. Hello, Madison, I said. I'm listening. Madison Morrison's voice trembled on the other end of the line. Mrs. Thornton, please. I know you're upset with Nathan, but this is my wedding. Can we please just talk? In person. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to hang up to keep this simple. But Madison wasn't Nathan. She wasn't Brittany. She was just a young woman whose wedding plans had exploded. All right, I said. Come by tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock. Thank you, she breathed. Thank you so much. I'll be there. After she hung up, I stood on my porch for a long time, watching the last light fade from the sky. The October night settled in, bringing with it that particular Montana cold that seeps into your bones. I wrapped my cardigan tighter and thought about what I'd say to Madison. If you're wondering what happens when they meet, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single moment of this story. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Nathan's threat that I wouldn't see Emma and Sophie anymore. My grandchildren. The thought of losing them gnawed at me like a physical pain. But I also knew that if I caved now, if I let Nathan bulldoze over me, I'd be teaching my granddaughters that it was okay to let people disrespect you. That keeping the peace was more important than standing up for yourself. What kind of grandmother would that make me? Morning came slowly. I was up before dawn, as always, tending to the animals and checking the property. The event coordinator's trucks were gone. Tom had handled that yesterday afternoon, officially canceling Nathan's unauthorized booking and confirming my own rental of the space. I'd written a substantial check to cover all the fees and complications. Worth every penny. At exactly 9 o'clock, a silver Honda pulled up my driveway. Madison Morrison stepped out, and I got my first real look at her. She was in her late 20s, pretty in a conventional way, with long brown hair and red-rimmed eyes that suggested she'd been crying recently. She wore jeans and a Thompson Falls Realty jacket. I remembered now that Brittany had mentioned Madison worked in real estate. Mrs. Thornton, she said as she approached the porch. Thank you for seeing me.
Come inside, I said.
Coffee, please. We settled at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd made every major decision in this war I was apparently fighting. Madison wrapped her hands around her coffee mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. I don't know where to start, she began. Start with how you ended up planning a wedding on my property without talking to me, I suggested, keeping my tone neutral. Madison flushed. Nathan told me and Tyler, my fiancé, that you'd agreed. He said you were excited about hosting a family wedding. He showed us pictures of the barn and said you'd offered it as a gift. A gift. I closed my eyes briefly. Madison, I never said any of that. Nathan never asked me. I know that now, she said miserably. Brittany called me yesterday, absolutely furious. She said you were being vindictive, but Mrs. Thornton, I looked you up. I asked around town. Everyone says you're fair. Tough, but fair. So, I figured there had to be more to the story. If you appreciate hearing both sides of the story like this, hit that subscribe button. We're building toward 1,000 subscribers, and we'd love your support. Asterisk, asterisk. I studied her for a moment. She seemed genuine. Tell me about your wedding plans. How did you end up needing this venue? Madison sighed. Tyler and I have been engaged for 2 years. We'd booked the Lakeside Lodge for this Saturday. It's been on the calendar forever. But 3 weeks ago, the lodge had a fire. Not a huge one, but enough damage that they had to cancel all their events for the next 2 months. We were devastated. We'd sent out invitations, booked the caterer, the photographer, everything. And we couldn't find another venue anywhere in the region on such short notice. Then Nathan offered my barn. I finished. He said it was perfect. Family property, beautiful views, plenty of space. He even offered to help set everything up. Madison looked down at her coffee. I should have insisted on meeting you first. I should have questioned why you weren't involved in the planning. But I was just so grateful to have a solution, and Nathan seemed so confident. Nathan's always been confident, I said quietly. Sometimes too confident. Madison met my eyes. Mrs. Thornton, I know I have no right to ask this. But is there any way at all, that we could still have the wedding here? I'd pay you whatever you want. I'd sign any contract you need. Tyler and I would handle everything ourselves. We wouldn't ask Nathan to do anything. We have 80 guests coming in 2 days, and nowhere else to go. I felt a tug of sympathy. This wasn't Madison's fault, not really. She'd been caught in the crossfire of my family's dysfunction. Madison, I said gently, even if I wanted to help you, and I'm not saying I don't, I've already booked the property for Saturday. I'm hosting a community harvest celebration. I've hired caterers, musicians, the whole thing. Her face fell. Oh. But more than that, I continued, this isn't really about your wedding. It's about Nathan thinking he can make decisions about my property without consulting me. If I cave in now, he'll never learn. And honestly, I need him to learn this lesson, even if it costs me something. Even if it costs me my wedding day? Madison asked quietly. The question hung in the air between us. I took a sip of my coffee, buying myself time to think. Let me ask you something, I said. Do you have children?
Not yet.
We want them, though. In a few years. When you do have children and they grow up, what do you want to teach them? That they can do whatever they want without consequences? Or that actions matter and respecting other people's boundaries is important? Madison was quiet for a long moment. Then, I see your point. But Mrs. Thornton, I'm not Nathan. I'm just someone who made a mistake by trusting the wrong person.
I know, I said. And I did know.
But that didn't change the fundamental problem. Madison, I'm sorry. I truly am. But I can't help you. Not without undermining everything I'm trying to accomplish here. Tears welled in her eyes. We've spent $20,000. The caterer, the photographer, the flowers. None of it's refundable. We'll lose everything. $20,000. I felt that number land in my chest. That was real money, especially for young people starting out. But I thought about Nathan's dismissiveness, his assumption that my land was his to control, and I held firm. I'm sorry, I repeated. Madison stood up, setting her coffee mug down with shaking hands. Thank you for hearing me out, at least. That's more than Nathan or Brittany thought you'd do. Subscribe to see how this impossible situation resolves. We're so grateful for each and every one of you who joins our community. ***. She left without another word, and I watched her car disappear down the driveway. Then I sat alone in my kitchen, feeling the weight of what I'd just done. I'd essentially destroyed a young couple's wedding to prove a point to my son. Was I doing the right thing? Or was I just being cruel? My phone buzzed. A text from Tom Henderson. Legal paperwork all filed. Your community event is officially registered. How are you holding up? I texted back. Not sure. Madison just left. She's a nice kid. I almost felt like helping her. But you didn't?
No.
Because this isn't about her. You're right. It's not. Stay strong, Margaret. What you're doing matters. I hoped he was right. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity. I confirmed final details with the caterer, the musicians, the community center volunteers who'd agreed to help set up. I spread the word through town, social media, phone calls, stopping by the local coffee shop to put up flyers. Free community harvest celebration. This Saturday. Everyone welcome. The response was overwhelming. People were excited. The town had been through a hard year. An early frost had damaged crops, and the sawmill had laid off 30 workers. A free celebration with good food and music? That was exactly what Thompson Falls needed. By evening, I felt like I'd run a marathon. I collapsed onto my porch swing, watching the sun set over the mountains, and let myself feel the full weight of exhaustion. That's when I heard another vehicle coming up the driveway. This time, I recognized the car immediately. Nathan's black SUV. He parked and got out, his face tight with anger. Brittany emerged from the passenger side, looking equally furious. And in the back seat, I could see Emma and Sophie's small faces pressed against the window. My heart clenched. He'd brought the girls. He was really going to do this, use his children as leverage. Nathan, I said as they approached the porch. Brittany. We need to talk, Nathan said.
His voice was hard, controlled.
Right now. Don't miss what happens in this confrontation. Subscribe to stay updated on every chapter of the story. Nathan and Brittany stood at the foot of my porch steps, their faces rigid with anger. In the SUV behind them, I could see Emma and Sophie watching through the window, their expressions confused and worried. My heart broke a little at the sight of them. Let the girls come inside, I said. This isn't a conversation for children to witness. They're fine where they are, Brittany snapped. This won't take long. I descended the porch steps, meeting them in my front yard. The evening air was cold now, and I could see my breath. You brought your daughters here to use them as props in an argument. That's not fine, Brittany. Don't you dare lecture me about my children, she shot back. You're the one tearing this family apart over a goddamn barn. This isn't about a barn, I said, fighting to keep my voice level. This is about respect. About Nathan making decisions that weren't his to make. Nathan stepped forward. Mom, I called Madison's father today. Do you know what he told me? That she's been crying for 2 days straight. That she and Tyler might have to cancel the wedding entirely because they can't afford to lose $20,000 and book a new venue. You're destroying a young couple's life to prove a point. I'm destroying it? I felt anger flare hot in my chest. Nathan, you created this situation. You told Madison I'd agreed to host her wedding when you never asked me. You gave her false hope. This disaster is on you, not me. You could fix it right now, Brittany interjected. Just let them have the wedding. Cancel your petty revenge party, or whatever you're planning. If you're invested in seeing how Margaret handles this pressure, click subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this one. Asterisk, asterisk. It's not a revenge party, I said. It's a harvest celebration for the town. I've already made commitments to vendors, musicians, volunteers. I'm not canceling. Nathan's face darkened. Then you're choosing strangers over your own family. I'm choosing self-respect over being bulldozed, I corrected. Nathan, for years now, you and Brittany have treated this place like it's already yours. You call it our property right in front of me. You make plans without consulting me. You've forgotten that I'm still alive, still the owner, still the one who's worked this land for 40 years. We were trying to help you, Brittany said. You're 72 years old. We thought you'd appreciate us taking some responsibility for the property. Taking responsibility would mean asking me first, I said. Not assuming. Not overriding my decisions. Asking. Nathan ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he was frustrated. This is insane. You're willing to destroy family relationships over your ego. My ego? I stared at him. Nathan, do you remember when you were 10 years old and you wanted a dirt bike? Your father and I said no because we couldn't afford it. You snuck into our bedroom and took money from our savings jar. $200. Do you remember what happened? He shifted uncomfortably. That was over 30 years ago. Your father made you return the dirt bike. I continued. And you had to work on the farm every day after school for 3 months to pay back that money. Do you remember why he did that? To teach me a lesson, Nathan muttered. To teach you that actions have consequences, I said. That you can't just take what isn't yours, even if you think you have a good reason. That's what I'm doing now, Nathan. Teaching you the same lesson your father tried to teach you all those years ago. Brittany laughed bitterly. So, this is punishment. You're punishing your own son. I'm setting a boundary, I corrected. There's a difference. Nathan looked toward the SUV, where his daughters were still watching. Then he turned back to me, and his expression shifted to something colder.
Fine. Have your boundary.
But don't expect us to keep bringing Emma and Sophie around. If you can't be reasonable about family matters, then maybe it's better if the girls don't spend so much time here. The threat was explicit now, no longer veiled. My throat tightened. You would really keep your children from their grandmother because of this? I asked quietly. You're making that choice, not us, Brittany said. We've tried to be understanding. We've tried to work with you. But you're being stubborn and vindictive, and we're not going to keep subjecting Emma and Sophie to this dysfunction. If you're shocked by this as Margaret is, don't forget to subscribe. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and we need your help to get there. Asterisk, asterisk. I looked past them to the SUV. Emma had her face pressed against the glass now, and I could see her mouth moving, probably asking her parents what was happening. Sophie was slumped in her seat, looking down at something in her lap. My granddaughters. The lights of my life. But I thought about the lesson I'd be teaching them if I backed down now. I thought about showing them that it was okay for people to walk all over you if they were family, that keeping the peace was more important than respecting yourself. If that's your decision, I said, my voice steady despite the pain in my chest, then I can't stop you. But Nathan, Brittany, think about what you're teaching your daughters. That manipulation is acceptable. That threats work. That family only matters when people do what you want. We're teaching them that there are consequences for hurting people, Brittany snapped. Something you apparently never learned. I learned it from watching my own father, Nathan added. He taught me that family comes first. That you sacrifice for the people you love. But you? He shook #chapter 4. Lines in the sand continued. But you? Nathan continued, his voice rising. You're so wrapped up in being right that you can't see the damage you're causing. Madison and Tyler losing their wedding day, Emma and Sophie losing their grandmother. All because you couldn't just let one thing go. The words stung, designed to wound. And they did. But I'd lived 72 years on this earth, survived the death of my husband, built a farm from nothing, and weathered droughts, floods, and market crashes. I wasn't going to crumble now. Your father, I said slowly, deliberately, would be ashamed of what you're doing right now. Robert believed in family, yes. But he also believed in integrity. In standing up for yourself. In teaching our children, teaching you, that respect isn't optional, even within families. Nathan flinched like I'd slapped him. Don't you dare speak for Dad, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Don't you dare pretend to know what he'd think. I was married to him for 43 years, I said. I know exactly what he'd think. He'd tell you that you should have asked permission before booking my property. That you should have respected your mother's autonomy. That you should take responsibility for your mistakes instead of blaming everyone else. Brittany grabbed Nathan's arm. Let's go. We're not getting anywhere with her. Nathan stared at me for a long moment. In his eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before. Not just anger, but genuine dislike. When had that happened? When had my son started looking at me like I was an obstacle instead of his mother? You know what? He said finally. Maybe it's good that Emma and Sophie won't be around here as much. I don't want them learning from your example. Learning that it's okay to be selfish and unforgiving. Learning that property is more important than people. He turned and walked back to the SUV. Brittany followed, but not before shooting me one last glare that could have frozen fire. I stood in my front yard and watched them drive away. Through the rear window, I saw Sophie turn around, her small hand pressed against the glass in what might have been a wave. Or maybe goodbye. If this story is hitting close to home for you, please subscribe. Every subscription helps us reach more people with stories that matter. Asterisk, asterisk. When the taillights disappeared down my driveway, I walked back into my house and closed the door. Then I sat at my kitchen table, put my head in my hands, and let myself cry for the first time since this whole nightmare began. Had I made the right choice? Or had I just sacrificed my relationship with my grandchildren for the sake of pride? The house felt enormous and empty around me. Robert's chair in the living room, I'd never moved it, even after he died. The photos on the walls of Nathan as a boy, riding horses, helping with the harvest, graduating high school. When had everything gone so wrong between us? My phone buzzed. A text from Jerry Wilkins, my caterer for Saturday. All set on my end. Menu finalized. This is going to be great, Margaret. Then another text from Rita, the folk singer, so excited to perform Saturday. The whole band is coming. We're going to make this special. And another from Tom Henderson. Permits approved. Insurance finalized. You're all clear for the event. How are you holding up? I stared at these messages, people supporting me, believing in what I was doing. The town rallying around me. That had to mean something, didn't it? I texted Tom back. Nathan just left. He's keeping the girls away from me. His response came quickly. I'm sorry, Margaret. That's cruel. But you're doing the right thing. Stay strong.
Was I?
I wasn't sure anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Sophie's hand pressed against the car window, kept hearing Nathan's words. I don't want them learning from your example. At 2 a.m, I got up and made tea. I stood at my kitchen window, looking out over the dark fields. The barn was a shadow in the moonlight, the same barn where Nathan had learned to ride, where we'd held his high school graduation party, where Robert and I had danced on our 40th wedding anniversary. How had a building become the symbol of everything broken in my family? Don't miss what happens next in this emotional journey. Subscribe now. We're so close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. ***. Hashtag Chapter 5. The day before. Friday morning arrived cold and gray, with clouds hanging low over the mountains. I woke early as always, but this time my body felt heavy with exhaustion and emotional weight. Today was the day before my community harvest celebration, and the day before what should have been Madison Morrison's wedding. I went through my morning routine mechanically. Feed the chickens, check on the cattle, inspect the barn. The barn looked empty now, waiting for tomorrow's transformation. Jerry's crew would arrive at dawn to set up the barbecue equipment. The high school band would need the stage area. Rita and her folk group would need the acoustics checked. So much to do. So much to distract myself from thinking about Emma and Sophie. At 8 o'clock, Tom Henderson called. Morning, Margaret. Just confirming. You still good for everything today? Yes, I said, injecting more confidence into my voice than I felt. Final walkthrough with the vendors at 10. Sound check at 2. Everything's on schedule. Good.
He paused.
How are you really doing? I leaned against the barn wall, the wood rough under my palm. Honestly, I keep wondering if I'm making a terrible mistake. If I'm sacrificing my grandchildren for the sake of proving a point. You're not proving a point, Tom said firmly. You're establishing a boundary. There's a difference. And Margaret, think about this. If Nathan can manipulate you this easily, using the girls as leverage, what kind of precedent does that set? Next time you disagree about something, he'll do the same thing. You'll never be able to stand up for yourself. I know you're right, I said. But knowing it doesn't make it hurt less. No, Tom agreed gently. It doesn't. After we hung up, I forced myself to focus on the tasks at hand. Jerry Wilkins arrived with his son Michael at 10, and we walked through the setup area. Jerry was a big man, 60 years old, with a gray beard and hands permanently stained with barbecue smoke. We'll set up 6 grills here, he said, gesturing to the area behind the barn. Pulled pork, brisket, chicken, and ribs. Plus all the sides, coleslaw, beans, cornbread. We're expecting what? 200 people. Maybe more, I said. The response has been incredible. Half the town is talking about it. Jerry smiled. That's what I like to hear. You know, Margaret, what you're doing here, giving back to the community like this, it matters. Especially after the year we've all had. If you appreciate stories about community and standing up for yourself, hit that subscribe button. We're building something special here, and we want you to be part of it. ***. At noon, I was in the barn organizing folding chairs when I heard a vehicle pull up. I walked outside, expecting another vendor, and stopped short. It was Madison Morrison's car again. She stepped out, and this time she wasn't alone. A young man was with her, tall, sandy-haired, wearing a Thompson Falls hardware jacket. Tyler, presumably. Her fiancé. Mrs. Thornton, Madison called. Please, just give us 5 minutes. I should have said no. I should have sent them away. But something in Madison's expression, desperate but also determined, made me pause. 5 minutes, I said. We stood in front of the barn, and Tyler spoke first. Mrs. Thornton, I'm Tyler Brooks. I know you don't know me, and I know we have no right to ask you for anything. But I wanted to meet you face to face and tell you what Nathan did was wrong. We understand that now. We should have insisted on meeting you before we made any plans. That's what I told her yesterday, Madison added. But Mrs. Thornton, Tyler, and I talked all night last night. And we have a proposal. I crossed my arms, waiting. Tyler continued. What if we joined your community celebration? What if, instead of having our wedding on your property, we had it as part of your event? Nothing fancy, just a simple ceremony, maybe 15 minutes, with the town as witnesses. Then Madison and I would help you host the rest of the day. We'd volunteer, serve food, whatever you need. I stared at them. You want to get married at a barbecue? It's better than not getting married at all, Madison said. And honestly, the more Tyler and I talked about it, the more we realized this might actually be better than what we'd planned. Our original wedding was going to be fancy and formal, but that's not really us. We're Montana people. Simple and real. Having the town celebrate with us, that feels right. This is getting interesting, isn't it? Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss how this unfolds. Just click that red button. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Asterisk, asterisk. I looked at them. These two young people who'd been caught in the crossfire of my family war. Tyler had his arm around Madison's shoulders, and she was leaning into him. They looked tired but hopeful. Why would you want to do this? I asked. After everything that's happened? Because we believe in what you're doing, Tyler said simply. Madison told me everything. About Nathan assuming he could use your property, about you standing up for yourself. Mrs. Thornton, I grew up on a ranch 40 miles from here. My father taught me that land means something. That ownership means something. Nathan was wrong to do what he did. You're right to call him out on it. And honestly, Madison added, I'd rather get married with your blessing, even if it's not the wedding I planned, than get married with all this anger and hurt as the backdrop. Does that make sense? It did make sense. More than that, it felt right in a way I couldn't quite articulate. Let me think about it, I said. That's all we're asking, Tyler said. We'll be at the Riverside Motel if you decide you're willing to let us be part of tomorrow. They left, and I stood alone in front of the barn, my mind spinning. Nathan would be furious if I allowed this. He'd see it as the ultimate betrayal, refusing his plans but accepting Madison's. But this was different. Madison and Tyler were asking, not assuming. They were offering to participate, not demanding to take over. And there was something else. If I said yes, Emma and Sophie might be able to attend. Maybe not as part of Nathan's family, but as part of the town celebration. Maybe I'd get to see them after all. I walked back into my house and called Tom. The Morrison kids just came to see me, I said. Oh. Tom sounded wary. What did they want? I explained their proposal. When I finished, Tom was quiet for a long moment. Margaret, he finally said, this could work. This could actually solve everything. You maintain your boundary with Nathan. He doesn't get to dictate terms. But you help these kids who got caught in the middle, and you show the town that you're not vindictive, you're principled. Nathan will hate it, I said. Nathan was going to hate anything you did, Tom pointed out. At least this way, something good comes out of it. I thought about Robert. What would he have done? I remembered one particular summer when a neighbor's cattle had broken through our fence and damaged an entire field of hay. Robert had been furious. We'd lost thousands of dollars of feed. But when he'd gone to confront the neighbor, he'd learned the man was dying of cancer, couldn't keep up with his property maintenance, and was terrified of losing his ranch. Robert had come home, organized a community work day, and helped repair all of the neighbors' fences. Being right isn't the same as being kind, he'd told me. Sometimes you can be both. If you're moved by this story of choosing kindness without sacrificing principles, please subscribe. Your support helps us keep sharing these powerful narratives. Asterisk, asterisk. I made my decision. I called Madison's cell phone. She answered on the first ring. Mrs. Thornton? You can get married tomorrow, I said. As part of the community celebration. 2 o'clock, in front of the barn. Simple ceremony. Then you and Tyler help me host the rest of the event. Deal? I heard her gasp, then the sound of crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mrs. Thornton, you won't regret this. We'll make it beautiful. Keep it simple, I reminded her. This is a community barbecue, not a formal wedding. Simple is perfect, Madison said through her tears. Thank you. God, thank you. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and let myself feel the weight of this decision. I'd just agreed to host the wedding I'd spent 3 days fighting against. But on my terms, with respect, with boundaries intact. And Nathan? Nathan would have to learn to live with it. That evening, I posted on the Thompson Falls Community Facebook page. Tomorrow's harvest celebration will include a special surprise, a wedding ceremony at 2 p.m. Join us in celebrating 2 of our own as they start their life together. All are welcome. The responses flooded in immediately. How beautiful. What a wonderful idea. Can't wait. This is why we love this town. And then, buried in the comments, I saw one from Brittany. Unbelievable. Let her be angry, I thought. I'd done what was right. Subscribe now to see the incredible conclusion to this story. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Help us reach our goal. ***. I went to bed that night feeling, for the first time in days, like maybe everything would work out.
The barn was ready.
The vendors were prepared. Madison and Tyler had their wedding. The town had their celebration. But at 3 a.m, I woke to the sound of my phone ringing. I grabbed it, my heart pounding. It was Nathan. "Mom," he said, and his voice was different, shaky, frightened. "Mom, I need help. There's been an accident." #Chapter 6, When Everything Changes. My hands trembled as I held the phone to my ear. "Nathan? What happened? Are the girls okay?" "The girls are fine," he said quickly. "They're at home with Brittany's mother. It's Tyler Brooks, Madison's fiancé. Mom, he's been in a car accident." I sat up in bed, my mind racing.
What?
When? Is he alive? Yes, but he's hurt. He's at Mountain View Hospital in Missoula. Madison called me. She didn't know who else to call.
She's there now.
Mom, he's in surgery. I was already getting out of bed, reaching for clothes in the dark. What happened? He was driving back from Missoula tonight. He'd gone to pick up their wedding rings from a jeweler there. A deer ran out on Highway 200. He swerved, hit a patch of ice, and rolled his truck. Some other driver found him and called 911. Oh God, I breathed. Poor Madison. Mom. Nathan's voice cracked. She's alone at the hospital. Her parents are in Seattle for some conference. They're trying to get flights back, but it'll be hours. Tyler's dad is driving down from his ranch, but that's 90 miles. She's just sitting there by herself, waiting to hear if her fiancé is going to be okay. I was already dressed, grabbing my truck keys. "I'm going to Missoula." "I figured you would," Nathan said quietly. "That's why I called. I thought you should know." "Thank you for telling me." I paused at the door. "Nathan, I know things between us are—" "We can talk about that later," he interrupted. "Right now, Madison needs someone. And Mom?"
I'm sorry. For all of it.
"I'm sorry." The words hung in the dark silence between us. "We'll talk tomorrow," I said. "After we know Tyler's okay." I hung up and drove through the October night toward Missoula. The highway was empty at this hour, and the darkness pressed in on all sides. I kept my truck steady at the speed limit, fighting the urge to go faster. Somewhere along this same stretch of road, Tyler Brooks had lost control of his vehicle. I saw the tire marks when I passed mile marker 87, black streaks leading off the highway into a field, and fresh debris. If you're on the edge of your seat, make sure you're subscribed. This story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next. ***. I reached Mountain View Hospital at 4:30 in the morning. The emergency room was harsh with fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. I found Madison in the surgical waiting room, hunched in a plastic chair, her face pale and tear-stained. "Mrs. Thornton," she whispered when she saw me. "You came." I sat down next to her and put my arm around her shoulders. She collapsed against me, sobbing. He's been in surgery for 2 hours, she said between gasps. They won't tell me anything except that it's serious. Internal bleeding. Maybe a collapsed lung. I don't know. Nobody will tell me anything because I'm not his wife yet, and his father isn't here yet, and I don't know what to do. You're doing exactly what you should be doing, I said firmly. You're here. You're waiting. You're being strong. I keep thinking about how the last thing I said to him was drive safe. She laughed bitterly. Like that means anything. Like saying the words could protect him. We sat together in that sterile waiting room, and I held this young woman I barely knew while she cried for the man she loved. Around us, the hospital hummed with its night rhythms, distant beeping, footsteps echoing down hallways, the occasional overhead page. At 5:15, a surgeon emerged through the double doors. Madison leaped to her feet. Tyler Brooks's family? The surgeon asked. I'm his fiancée, Madison said. Is he alive? He's alive, the surgeon said, and I saw Madison's knees buckle with relief. I caught her arm, steadying her. But he's in critical condition. The accident caused severe trauma to his chest and abdomen. We've stopped the internal bleeding, but he has 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and significant soft tissue damage. He's stable for now, but the next 24 hours are crucial. Can I see him? Madison asked. He's in recovery. Once he's moved to ICU, you can see him for a few minutes. But Ms. Morrison, I need to be clear. He's going to need extensive care and a long recovery. We're talking months, not weeks. Madison nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Thank you. Thank you for saving him. The surgeon left, and Madison turned to me. He's alive. Mrs. Thornton, he's alive. Yes, he is, I said. And you're going to get through this. Both of you. Subscribe if you're moved by this turn of events. We're building a community here, and we need you to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. ***. Tyler's father arrived at 6 o'clock, a weathered rancher named Bill Brooks who looked like he'd aged 10 years during the 90-mile drive. Madison filled him in, and then the 3 of us waited together for news that Tyler had been moved to ICU. At 7 o'clock, a nurse came to get us. He's awake, she said. Groggy, but aware. You can see him, but only for a few minutes. Madison and Bill went in first. I stayed in the waiting room, suddenly aware of how exhausted I was. I checked my phone and saw a dozen missed messages. Jerry Wilkins, asking if we were still on for today. Rita, confirming the performance time. Tom Henderson, asking if I'd heard about the accident. And one from Nathan. Is Tyler going to be okay? I texted back. He's alive. Critical but stable. Madison's with him now. His response came quickly. Thank God. Mom, what about the celebration today? And the wedding? The celebration. The wedding. In the chaos of the last few hours, I'd almost forgotten. It was Saturday morning. In 6 hours, people would start arriving at my farm expecting barbecue, music, and a wedding ceremony. But there would be no wedding now. The groom was in ICU, fighting for his life. I stood up and walked to the hospital's main entrance, stepping outside into the cold morning air. The sun was just starting to rise over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Somewhere out there, my farm was waiting. The barn. The fields. Everything I'd fought so hard to protect. And suddenly, none of it seemed to matter as much as I'd thought it did. I called Jerry Wilkins. Margaret, he answered immediately. I heard about the accident. How's the boy? Alive, I said. But Jerry, he's in bad shape. Madison's here at the hospital with him. There's not going to be a wedding today. I figured, Jerry said gently. What do you want to do about the celebration? I thought about it. 200 people would show up expecting food and community. The town needed this, needed something good after a hard year. And more than that, maybe we could transform the event into something else. Something that would help Madison and Tyler. We go forward, I decided. But we change it. Instead of a wedding celebration, we make it a fundraiser. All the food donations, All the money that people might have spent on gifts, it all goes to help Madison and Tyler with medical bills. Can you spread the word? Consider it done, Jerry said. Margaret, that's a hell of an idea. This town will rally around those kids. If you believe in the power of community like this, hit subscribe. We're almost at our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and your support keeps these stories coming. Asterisk, asterisk. I made more calls. Rita, the musician. Tom Henderson, the community center volunteers. One by one, they all agreed. The celebration would go on, but with a new purpose. By the time Madison and Bill Brooks emerged from Tyler's room, I had a plan. He's sleeping now, Madison said, her voice hoarse. But he knew I was there. He squeezed my hand. Madison, I said, I need to talk to you about today. She looked confused, like she'd forgotten what day it was. Today? The harvest celebration at my farm. 200 people are expecting to show up. And I think we should let them. But instead of a wedding, we make it a fundraiser for Tyler's medical care. The whole town supporting you and Tyler. What do you think? Madison stared at me. You would do that? After everything? Yes, I said simply. Because this isn't about property rights anymore or family feuds or who is right and who is wrong. This is about helping two people who need it. She threw her arms around me, sobbing again. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bill Brooks shook my hand, his grip firm and grateful. Mrs. Thornton, I don't know what to say. This is incredibly generous. It's what neighbors do, I said. It's what family does. I left the hospital at 8 o'clock and drove back to Thompson Falls. The morning had turned bright and clear, the kind of Montana autumn day that makes you grateful to be alive. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw Jerry and his crew already setting up and several other vehicles parked near the barn, volunteers arriving early to help. And there, standing near my front porch, was Nathan's SUV. Chapter 7, Harvest. Nathan stood alone by the porch steps, his hands shoved in his jacket pockets, his breath visible in the cold morning air. When I parked and got out of my truck, he didn't move, just watched me approach. How's Tyler? He asked.
Alive.
Critical but stable. Long recovery ahead. I stopped a few feet from him, suddenly aware of how exhausted I was. I'd been awake for over 24 hours, and every muscle in my body ached. Nathan nodded slowly. I heard what you're doing. Turning the celebration into a fundraiser for them. That's really good, Mom. We stood in awkward silence. Around us, the farm was coming to life with activity. Jerry's crew firing up the grills, volunteers stringing lights, the high school band members arriving with their instruments. Where are Brittany and the girls? I asked.
Home.
Brittany's mother has the girls for the day. Nathan took a deep breath. Mom, I need to say something. I've been thinking about it all night since the accident. And I realize I've been a terrible son. I started to protest, but he held up his hand. No, let me finish.
You were right.
About all of it. I did treat this place like it was already mine. I did make decisions without asking you. I did assume that because I'm family, I could just take what I wanted. He looked around at the farm, his eyes landing on the barn. Dad, and you built this place from nothing. You worked your whole lives for it. And I disrespected that. I disrespected you. Nathan. I used Emma and Sophie as weapons against you, he continued, his voice breaking now. I threatened to keep them away from you because I was angry and I wanted to hurt you. What kind of man does that to his own mother? This is such a powerful moment. If you're moved by this reconciliation, please subscribe. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Help us reach our goal. Asterisk, asterisk. Tears were running down Nathan's face now. When I got the call about Tyler's accident last night, all I could think was, what if that had been me? What if I died with all this anger between us? With you thinking I didn't love you or respect you? Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I closed the distance between us and pulled my son into my arms. He collapsed against me, sobbing, and I held him the way I'd held him when he was a little boy, tight and protective and full of love. I forgive you, I whispered. Nathan, I forgive you. We stood there in my front yard, holding each other while the morning sun climbed higher and the farm filled with people and purpose. When Nathan finally pulled back, he wiped his eyes and laughed shakily. I bet I look like a mess. You look like my son, I said. That's all that matters. Can I help today? He asked. With the fundraiser? I know I don't deserve to. Of course you can help, I interrupted. That's what family does. Nathan smiled, a real smile, maybe the first genuine one I'd seen from him in years. Thank you, Mom. We walked together toward the barn, where Jerry was directing his crew. The smell of barbecue smoke was already filling the air, mixing with pine and earth. More vehicles were arriving now, families from town, carrying folding chairs and blankets, excited to be part of something good. Tom Henderson found me near the barn. Margaret, I heard about Tyler. This fundraiser idea is brilliant. I've already set up a donation table with a cash box and a card reader. People are going to be generous. I can feel it. Thank you, Tom, for everything. He squeezed my shoulder. That's what friends do. By noon, the farm was transformed. 200 people had become 300. Families spread across the grounds, children running and playing, the high school jazz band filling the air with music. Jerry's barbecue was drawing a line of people 50 deep, and every single person who came through dropped money in the donation jar, 20s, 50s, some even hundreds. For Tyler and Madison, they'd say. For those kids. I moved through the crowd, greeting neighbors, accepting hugs, watching Montana community in action. This was what Robert and I had always loved about this place, the way people showed up for each other when it mattered. At 1:30, Nathan found me. Mom, Brittany's here. She brought Emma and Sophie. Is that okay? My heart leaped.
Yes.
Of course. Where are they? He pointed toward the barn, and I saw them. Brittany standing with my granddaughters, looking uncertain. When she saw me looking, she raised her hand in a tentative wave. I walked over, and before I could say anything, Emma and Sophie ran to me, throwing their arms around my waist. Grandma, Sophie cried. Daddy said we can help with the party. We brought cookies. Emma added. Mommy and us made them last night. I looked over their heads at Brittany. She met my eyes and mouthed 2 words. I'm sorry. I nodded, accepting. Not everything could be fixed in one day, but this was a start. If you believe in forgiveness and second chances, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us as we work toward 1,000 subscribers. Asterisk, asterisk. At 2 o'clock, I stood on a makeshift stage that the volunteers had assembled in front of the barn. The crowd quieted as I took the microphone. Thank you all for coming today, I said, my voice amplified across the farm. This celebration started as one thing and became something else entirely. Some of you know that there was supposed to be a wedding here today, Madison Morrison and Tyler Brooks. But last night, Tyler was in a serious accident. A murmur went through the crowd. Tyler is alive and fighting, I continued. But he has a long recovery ahead. So today, we're not just celebrating the harvest. We're celebrating community. We're showing Madison and Tyler that they're not alone. Every dollar donated today will go directly to help with their medical expenses. That's what we do here in Thompson Falls. We take care of our own. The crowd erupted in applause. I saw people already pulling out their wallets, heading toward Tom's donation table. Rita and her folk band took the stage after me, and their music filled the afternoon. Songs about Montana, about home, about love and loss and resilience. Emma and Sophie danced with other children in front of the stage. Nathan and Brittany sat together on a blanket, his arm around her shoulders, both of them smiling. Jerry's barbecue fed everyone twice over. The high school band played. People lingered as the sun began to set, not wanting the day to end. By 6 o'clock, Tom found me with a final count. Margaret, we raised $37,000. $37,000. This community is incredible. I felt tears prick my eyes. Tyler and Madison are going to be okay. They're really going to be okay. As the last families packed up to leave, as the volunteers cleaned up and Jerry's crew loaded their equipment, I stood alone for a moment looking at my barn. The same barn that had been the center of so much conflict just days ago. But it wasn't a symbol of family dysfunction anymore. It was what it had always been meant to be, a place where community gathered, where people helped each other, where life happened in all its messy, beautiful complexity. Nathan approached, holding Emma's hand. Sophie was asleep on his shoulder. "Mom," he said quietly, "can we talk? About the future of the farm?" "Yes," I said. "But Nathan, let's do it right this time. Together. With respect." "Absolutely," he agreed. "And Mom, thank you for teaching me what that looks like. If you've been with us through this entire journey, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. We're so grateful for every single one of you who helps us grow. Hit that red button now. ***. Epilogue. 3 months later, I stood in Tyler and Madison's small house in Thompson Falls, watching as Tyler practiced walking with his physical therapist. He was getting stronger every day, though the recovery had been long and painful just as the doctors predicted. Madison had called me that morning. "Mrs. Thornton, can you come over? We have something we want to ask you." Now, as Tyler finished his session and sat down heavily on the couch, Madison brought out a cardboard box. "We wanted to show you something," she said, opening it. Inside were hundreds of cards, get well cards, cards with donations, cards with prayers and well wishes. "These are from that day at your farm. From the fundraiser. Mrs. Thornton, you saved us. Not just financially, but emotionally. Knowing the whole town was behind us, it got us through the darkest days." "The town did that," I said. "Not me." "You made it possible," Tyler countered. "And we want to do something to thank you." They looked at each other. Then Madison pulled out a photograph. It showed the two of them standing in front of my barn on the day of the fundraiser, the mountains golden behind them in the afternoon sun. "We want to get married at your farm," Madison said. "If you'll let us. A real wedding this time, not an emergency or an argument or a crisis. Just two people who love each other, getting married in a place that represents everything good about community and family and forgiveness." I looked at the photograph, my barn, my land, transformed not by conflict, but by love. "Yes," I said, smiling. "Yes, you can get married at my farm. And this time, we'll plan it together." Madison hugged me, and I thought about how much had changed in 3 months. Nathan and I were closer than we'd been in years. Brittany and I were learning to understand each other. Emma and Sophie spent weekends at the farm, feeding chickens and learning about the land that would one day be their inheritance. And the farm itself, Robert's and my life's work, had become something more than just property. It had become proof that standing up for yourself didn't mean closing yourself off from others. That boundaries and compassion could coexist. That sometimes the hardest fights lead to the most beautiful reconciliations. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe. It helps us share more meaningful narratives with people who need them. And remember, standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. But so is knowing when to open your arms and let love back in. ***. We've reached the end of Margaret's story, but we're just beginning to build this community. Subscribe now, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and help us reach beyond 1,000 subscribers. Together, we're proving that every story matters, every voice deserves to be here.